Ahmadinejad, Iran's president, believes that the Shia Mehdi, or the Shia Messiah, is sitting on his shoulder and telling him what to do. Senior intelligence officers in Israel and the Western world believe that such a man should never have his hand on the trigger of a nuclear bomb. But Ahmadinejad is not the only one taking decisions in Iran. The serious decisions are taken by the mullahs. So far, the president and the mullahs are defying the United Nations and continue to build a nuclear bomb. The international debate how to stop Iran from having the bomb and the threat of war are growing.
I think that the consequences of a conflict, a military conflict with Iran, could be quite dramatic. And therefore I would counsel against military action except as a last resort and if we felt that our vital interests were threatened.
Iran, a Shiite Muslim state, wants to export its Iranian revolution not only in the Middle East like it did in Lebanon, but all over the world. That is one reason it is so persistent to obtain nuclear capability as soon as possible.
This is what they have in mind. They want to change the world. It's not changing the situation in Iran. It's changing the world, changing the world order. One of the main elements in this respect is changing the rules of war. The Iranians and Hezbollah and Bin Laden and Hamas and Syria, they all want to change these rules. They want to make it legitimate to carry out military operations against civilians. They are trying to gain legitimacy for using weapons deliberately, intentionally, against civilians in order to kill civilians. This endeavor of equipping themselves with a nuclear weapon might turn out to be their most dangerous move. This might be the most deadly step for the revolution, because they might evoke the world in such a way that even the Europeans will say, okay, enough is enough.
At the end of the day, I don't believe that the European community, neither the Americans, will let Iran continue with its plans. I don't think this is a fight of Israel alone. If and when they'll have the bomb, they will look at us as one of the main targets, if not the only target, immediate target. And as such, we have to take the necessary measures to protect ourselves.
The United States is still deeply involved in Iraq militarily and does not really want to risk a military confrontation at this point with Iran. Israel knows its population will pay a very high price if it takes on Iran on its own. Since the time of the Shah, Iran has patiently worked on producing a nuclear bomb. Iran will have nuclear capability, according to one senior intelligence officer in Israel. The question is who has the hand on the trigger.
There's a definition of Iran as a crazy state. There are crazy states that behave like crazy people. I mean, and there are crazy leaders who are the product of a crazy state.
Ahmadinejad personally is very radical, most probably a member of a very radical sect inside the Shia, who's waiting, like all Shias, but even more vigorously and eagerly, return of the hidden Mahdi. He's totally dedicated and devoted to the cause of the Iranian revolution. And he's a relatively good manager. And he's a very modest and humble person in his personal life. And he's very well known for that. And I think this is what made him become the president. And mainly because the Iranian Revolutionary Guards decided that he's going to be the president and not Rafsanjani during the election.
There must be more radical action against Iran. And this radical action must be, the experts has to sit down and see where it hurts the most. Iran can be the most powerful or the richest country in the region, but when sanctions are applied, the things that she has in hand, maybe it will last 6 months, 1 year. And let us not forget that all the money that Iran is getting from the oil is being invested in huge programs inside. And if this doesn't come, then the Iranian regime will have a problem.